Chapter 12: The Rise of Commerce in Afro-Eurasia by Ryan Murphy. Agricultural Innovation and Diffusion. With the invention, adoption, and diffusion of new farming techniques, this increased investment in agriculture. It helped with urban demand for industrial raw goods, which then rose. Producing goods for sale rather than household consumption became rewarding, and agriculture changed the relationship between the lower class and the rulers. Retrenchment and renewal in Europe and Byzantium. Manorial lords and serfs. A serf is a peasant who is legally tied to the land and owes their goods or services to the lord who owned the land the peasant was on. Landowners were responsible for the agricultural development and innovation in Europe. In the 10th and 11th century, population increased while labor did not. The warrior nobility and monastic establishments founded manorial estates that turned the royal community to serfs. Lords would gather their serfs into small villages and hold them to their rules and the rules of their lord's parish priests. Serfs were required to grind grain at their master's mill and make bread using the master's oven and borrow money from their master if needed. Agricultural technology and innovation. Manorial lords introduced new technologies such as the wheeled moldboard plow, which was pulled by horses rather than oxes and was lighter. Winemaking and grape cultivation was heavily instituted by many manorial lords and monasteries. Between Latin West and the Byzantine East, wheat and barley remained the very dominant crops. Agricultural innovation had more of an impact with Western Europe than it did with the Byzantine Empire. Agricultural transformation in the Islamic world. Emergence of landed estates. The Arab conquerors of Iraq, Iran, and Syria were confined to two towns, which did not trigger an immediate impact on the highly developed agricultural systems around the area. Between the 9th and 10th century, caliphate began to lose its control over provinces that they turned to slave armies to keep their local areas safe. They turned over their landed estates to the military commanders for the slave forces. Most of the land was held as Iqta estates to contribute to the support of the slave armies. New crops and farming practices. Spain was introduced to Asian foods such as rice, cotton, sugarcane, sorghum, and citrus from fruits from Muslim rulers. Europeans only adopted very few farming practices and crops. The climate in northern Europe prevented most warm weather crops from being cultivated there. Retreat to pastoral livelihoods. The Seljuks demanded the agricultural and economical prosperity of the Islamic world. Landowners were not interested in improving agriculture. Negligence of irrigation systems and taxation led to a population decrease. Rice economies in monsoon Asia. From 800 to 1200, a change in agriculture transformed the economic life throughout monsoon Asia. Rise of powerful monarchies in Southeast Asia. Powerful monarchies such as the notable Angkor came to power because of the development of irrigated rice agriculture. Angkor never created a centralized bureaucratic system like the Chinese. The Angkor monarchies portrayed themselves as servants of God and custodians of their temples. Revenues that followed from the temples paid for massive projects. A state-based economy in Japan. Land recollection in Japan, organized by religious estates and aristocrats, led to the spread of rice cultivation. After 1900, the climate became warmer, increasing the growing season. More growing meant more crops, which led to a population increase and the growth of cities. Having a connection between the countryside and town helped the economy become much better. Industrial growth and money economy. Rising productivity in agriculture drove the economic growth. Agriculture was responsible for population increase and the expansion of the markets. Technology change in industrial enterprise. Increased iron production. The production of iron expanded in Europe, but had no real breakthrough until after 1300 with the blast furnace technology. In the 11th century, China produced about 125,000 tons of iron per year, more than twice the production of Europe. Advances in shipbuilding and navigation. Arab seafarers overcame the monsoon winds of the Indian Ocean by using lateen sails. The traditional Mediterranean galley, which was powered by oars, was designed for war rather than commerce. The cogship was a ship that was introduced by Northern Europe and had a square sail rigging the stern post rudders. It could be built larger, but only required one-fifth of the crew. The nautical compass was introduced around 1270. Sea charts called portolones were also introduced around this time. Expansion of textile manufacture. Egypt was known for its high-quality cloth that was sold to the Islamic world as well as in Europe. New innovations such as spinner wheels, treadle-operated looms, and water mills increased productivity. Exclusion of women from the workforce. Women were robbed of jobs by the men and virtually disappeared from wage-earning positions from European cities. Expanding circulation of money. Byzantine monetary system. Europeans used silver pennies for local economy but conducted international trade using gold coins from the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine state collected taxes in gold coins and used them for public projects. Soldiers were paid in gold coins to ensure their wide dispersal throughout the empire. Islamic monetary system. The Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik's currency, reformed during 690, had created a monetary standard in the Islamic world called silver dirham. European monetary system. Gold coinage in Italy proved that the Italians' merchants overpowered Mediterranean trade. Credit and the invention of paper money. Overcoming bans against usury. Usury is the practice of charging interest on loans which is forbidden under Christian and Muslim codes. Christian merchants drew up contracts to disguise the usury as interest payments. Cairo, a commercial crossroads. The use of African gold into Cairo made it the first great international financial center. Invention of paper money in China. Private merchants began to use their own bills of exchange. In 1024, the Song government created its own official paper money. Merchants and trade networks in Afro-Eurasia. Merchant partnerships and long-distance trade. Guild system. Guild is an association of merchants or artisans grouped by their type of work. Guilds were to regulate rulers and regulations within the work area. Commercial partnerships. Muslim law only allowed one partner for commercial partnerships. Chinese law followed the Muslims with restricting partnerships. Joint stock companies. Found in Italian cities in the 13th century. Joint stock companies pooled their money together for trading ventures, finance, and maintained offices in foreign cities. Merchants and rulers. Merchant-ruler relations in Europe. Merchants became closely allied to the political leaders in the Italian city-states. Trade cities along the Baltic Sea formed an alliance called Hanseatic League, which helped keep their monopolies. Merchant-ruler relations in the Islamic world. Most merchants enjoyed high status and close ties with their political leaders regardless of their religion. Mamluk strength relied on their slave armies, which were funded by Iqta estates and commercial taxes. Merchant-ruler relations in China. Merchants did not like their social prestige in China. The Song Empire had monopolies on rice wine, salt, copper, and alum, which produced more than half of their cash. Maritime traders in Indian Ocean. Dominance of Muslim merchants. The Indian Ocean trade was dominated by Muslim merchants in the 9th century due to their superior shipbuilding and skills. In the 10th century, China was divided into shorter segments by merchants. Chola's quest for maritime supremacy. The Chola kingdom in 11th century wanted to test the Muslims in Asia international commerce. Chola became allies with Srivajaya, but in 1025 Chola turned on Srivajaya, which repeated attacks on them. Tamil merchants and the China trade. Chola's foreign trade was controlled by powerful Tamil merchant guides that mobilized convoys and found trade settlements overseas. The 12th century is when China began to mount their own overseas expeditions. Maritime traders in the Indian Ocean. Swahili merchants and East African trading cities. They used the monsoon winds to trade as far south as Kilwa. They controlled the gold trade, which greatly enriched the Muslim sultans. Rise and fall of Great Zimbabwe. During the 13th century, the Zimbabwe rose as a powerful state which controlled over gold and copper. In the 14th century, Zimbabwe's control could not last as trade routes shifted to the Zambezi River Valley. Trans-Saharan traders. Gold trade in Ghana. Ghana was referred to as the ruler of both state and capital. The gold trade was monopolized by Ghana. Advance of Islam. Trading cities converted to Islam by the 12th century. Rise of Mali. 12th century Ghana's gold monopoly and political power was depleted. The Mali monarch was Mansa Musa from 1312 to 1337. Mediterranean and European traders. Revival of towns. Berger, a free citizen living in the town who has certain privileges such as being part of town government. Production, tribute, and trade in the Hawaiian Islands. Tribute, submission of wealth, labor, and sometimes items of symbolic value to a ruling authority. Settlement and agriculture. Agriculture and ecological change. In 1100, the human population grew rapidly and the agricultural life grew very intense as well. Irrigation was not very practical on the large eastern islands of Hawaii due to the massive lava flows that covered the islands. The population of and the growth of the irrigation system reached its peak in the 15th and 16th centuries. The rulers in Hawaii controlled the land ownership. The Hawaiian rulers claimed descent from God and greatly differed themselves from society. Exchange and social hierarchy. Social stratisfaction. Taboo. In Polynesia, the designation of certain actions or objects as sacred and forbidden from anyone not of royal status. Women were forbidden to eat certain foods and had to cook their foods in a separate oven as well as eat apart from men. Omnipotent kings. The oldest royal lineages were in the most densely populated islands of Kauai and Oahu. Focused religion worship on Kane, the god of fertility and flowering water. Hawaiian rulers forged powerful states based on social ranking. Private property did not exist. Taboos served above everyone to enforce the sharp social boundaries between rulers and commoners.